right. So for those of you who already joined us, and I see there are plenty of you, I'll just start by telling a little bit about Startup Grind, who we are, what we do, and also I'm going to be recording this session, although it's recording, so everything is cool. All right. So Startup Grind is the world's largest community of entrepreneurs. We are like over 3 million participants in over 125 countries, 600 chapters worldwide. And I'm going to run through our values real quick. We're all about give first, take later. And help others before we help ourselves. And the most important thing is that we make friends, we don't make contacts. I'm going to run quick about our chapter. We are from Rishon Lezion. Rishon Lezion is the fourth largest city in Israel, about to become third, surpassing Haifa in the process. Roughly 300,000 people living in Rishon Lezion nowadays, and we expect to have 350,000 in a year or so. So without further ado, I'm going to thank Amiad first for joining us. It's really special to have you here, Amiad. How are you doing, sir?
Thank you for having me.
Great. So, Noya, you want to kickstart our meetup?
Yes, of course. Hi,
Excellent.
everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. I'm very excited because actually I know Amiad from high school, I think. So
that's true.
Nice. Yes. And it's very exciting for me. It's my honor, actually, that you're here with us today. We will start with my favorite question. Can you tell us a little bit about your background? How did it all begin, your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. So thank you again for having me here. I am also honored to be your main guest of this event. It all started with Noya at high school. No, I'm kidding. It all started when both me and my identical twin brother were studying in Tel Aviv University. And, Tel Aviv is not known for its low prices of rent. And, while we were studying, we wanted to recoup some of our rent costs, at least while we were away. So I was traveling to United States once, and I tried this new platform back then called Airbnb. I'm talking 2012. So Airbnb was a lot smaller than it is now. It was still quite big to people in the startup community. So they raised at valuations of a couple hundreds of millions of dollars. And my experience was cumbersome. So I talked to my brother about it, and I did what most entrepreneurs do. We did nothing. And 6 months later, my brother traveled as well, and he had the same negative experience. And we talked to each other and said, like, hey, there's no way Airbnb is exploding like they were with so much work involved. There needs to be kind of like a lunch and forget, kind of like, here are my keys, where's my check? At least that type of experience we thought of when we saw Airbnb's growth. And since we couldn't find one, we decided this is a big problem. We need to solve it. And we started helping a few of my brother's friends that were doing Airbnb. And with this idea, we also applied to Y Combinator, which is a startup accelerator in the US. It's also, its logo is almost like Eagle here, which is orange with the Y. So we applied to YC, and the person who interviewed us was Paul Graham himself, which was the founder and CEO of YC back then. And the funny story is he actually was talking to the Airbnb founders about this exact problem. That was called host fatigue. And we showed him a demo of our product, and it just clicked. And we decided, that they decided to extend us an invite to be part of their accelerator when we were part of Winter 14 class. That was 6 years and 4 months ago. And during the program, we were, relocating to San Francisco. I was running across San Francisco doing laundry and cleaning 6 homes a day myself. Yeah. We did had some cleaners that we managed as well, but sometimes they were unreliable and we had to do things ourselves. And my brother was taking care of all the online parts of the business. And after 2 months of doing so, YC, the beauty of it is they open a lot of doors for you. So we were able to meet with the CEO of Exec, which was Justin Khan, and also the CEO of Homejoy. Both of them are kind of like Uber for cleanings, or they used to be. Both of them are already closed. And we talked to their founders, and we realized, they were struggling with the same problem of, managing low-skilled employees and trying to make them, do all these tasks for us. And we saw that, we were computer geeks. We don't have any competitive advantage managing underground operations. We decided to pivot. That was our first pivot from underground property management company to an online property management company. And we ran with it for a year, approximately. We raised some capital, about $1.6 million back then. And we were struggling, to say the least. So we were basically offering a service of, hey, we will run your Airbnb for you, but remotely. We built all these tools to automate a lot of the procedures for ourselves, to respond to guest messages, to schedule cleaners, to make sure that the guests know how to check in, everything. But we were competing with these on-the-ground property managers like we were, and it was a lot harder to convince people to give us their, keys to their home. So after a year of struggling, and you would see our graph of revenue, it's very stagnant. It was like up and down, churn, and new customers, churn, and new customers. And after a year of doing so, we were, very much of, into this thinking of what do we need to do here? There needs to be a decision. So we went to this conference called VRMA. And I definitely encourage people to go to conferences of their industry to learn more about the situation. And there we saw all of our, potential customers or potential competitors, property management companies who were doing it on the ground. And they were using very old technology. Like they were using things from 1995 and things that are DOS-based and things like that. So we said, hey, we built such an amazing tools for ourselves to run all these operations. Why, instead of us just using it ourselves, why don't we sell it to them? And that was our second pivot from a property management company in the cloud to a software platform for property managers. And that was the aha moment. And you would see our revenue graph and just kind of like this, and all of a sudden it grow like crazy, just because we were able to find our, product market fit, which is a product to sell to property managers that make their life easy, and a repeat mechanism to find those property managers and sell to them. That was 5 years ago. During those 5 years, we more than doubled each year. We are now about 300 people in the company. We raised $60 million to date. The latest round was $35 million last year. And yeah, we have about 10 offices worldwide, including our headquarters here in Tel Aviv, but a lot of offices around the world as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Actually sounds like an amazing and very challenging journey that you and your brother
a lot of ups
through.
And downs, I tell you, a lot of ups and downs. One of the things I realized is that the life of an entrepreneur, the life of a founder, is always a roller coaster between the highs and lows. And even though that, when you're successful, that's the time between those high and lows stretches from, from between multiple each day to once per month or once per quarter. And then a pandemic hits you, and all of a sudden, you're back on a roller coaster. It keeps you up at night and keeps you on your toes, but it's also the beauty of it. It's keep you challenged.
Keep you challenged. And you've mentioned that you participate in a Y Combinator.
Correct.
And can you tell us a little bit more about the experience in this kind of accelerator? It's one of the most famous accelerators and in in the
Yeah,
world.
it is one of the most famous accelerators in the world. It's also the one of the hardest to get into. In fact, they
Right.
share that the acceptance rates to YC is lower than the acceptance rates to Stanford, um, which begs the question: how did we get in, right? But we did our job of doing our research really well. In fact, Kobe flew to Startup School, which is an event before YC, to consult with people on the ground there about our application and things like that. So we did a lot of work to prepare for our interview, and YC is definitely not what people expect, right? So it's we were first-time founders, so we just were in absorbing mode, like give us everything. But it's very hands-off experience. You have a group of very very talented companies in your batch, and you're trying to absorb a lot of insight from each and every one of them. And once a week, you have those get-together meals, plus a speaker comes and talk to you. Normally, very famous speakers. Um, founders of other startups. We had the Airbnb founders as well, and I think that for each company it's a little bit different. Each company has different experience, and each company, kind of like have different benefits that they can gain from the program. We got a lot of opening of doors from the program. Like we got access to Airbnb itself. We got access to, as I mentioned, HomeJoy and Exec that helped us decide that we want to pivot. And it gave us a lot of good advices along the way, but mostly it gave us a lot of clarity. Sometimes people think that when you talk to very experienced people, you get being told what to do. Good consultants and good people give advice. Normally don't tell you what you need to do because they understand that you know more about your industry than they know. They normally just help you figure it out. So sometimes 20 minutes of talking time with a very experienced founder like you can help you understand what's the most important thing to focus on, what's the thing that you're doing wrong, and things like that. So it's a 3 months program, and at the end of it, you do a demo day. Now it's a virtual demo day. They're actually doing a virtual class this time, and that's it. So unlike people think that once you finish YC, you easy to raise money, you become rich. No, it's definitely not like that. About half of the people in our class didn't end up raising at all. Some of them were had difficulties raising. We felt like we were really struggling to raise. I had to have 40 no's on every yeses I got, but
Okay.
we were hustling. We were salespeople from get-go, so we were hustling. One of the people that gave us our first check was actually the CEO of Reddit back then, and she told us, hey, I actually don't know a lot about what you guys do, but I really like the way that you hustled the floor. So here's $10,000. It was just like, that was our first investment. So interesting story.
Interesting and very inspiring story. I believe that it is amazing starting point to finish this kind of accelerator and to grow and take all the added value that you get and just start to actually work outside. Thank you, Amiad.
Thank you.
Amiad, I actually got a question which is more actual. It doesn't have to do with anything of your background. But right now has to be one of the toughest situations you faced as a startup because of the COVID-19 situation. Of course, you deal with short-term rentals, so that means many tourists.
Yeah. So we're just in the cut between PropTech.
Yeah, exactly. You're intertwined between
tech.
PropTech and travel tech, exactly. So you are intertwined, and I just wanted to know how is it to manage the startup in such crazy times.
Well, it's very humbling experience. It's the first time that you have to talk to people that about the situation of the world and not just your company, right? So sometimes if a company doesn't do a good job, you are mandated to make changes and do cost cutting. This times companies can do excellent job and still need to do cost cutting. It's a very strange world that we're living in, and I think it's one of once in a lifetime scenario where no one planned for it. If you asked me last year and our investors last year, what is the highest risk that would be for your company, no one would give it to a world virus pandemic or anything like that. I think that none of us took it into account, but we were lucky enough that we raised significant round last year. The truth is that we were capital efficient enough that we only started touching that capital this year, which gave us a very long runway. And even with the efficiency measures that we have taken, we know that we have enough runway to not only outlast this pandemic, but also enough to invest back in growth. I have also a lot of respect to my team. We've done amazing work from home. They adjusted really well. They also took the news about the industry and what's going on very well. We took on ourselves to be very transparent with our team. We do a weekly all hands meeting where we share our KPIs and what's going on. And that's been very good with reassuring the team of, our strength and also the ability of us to recover quickly. We also already seeing some good positive, metrics. Like, for example, a lot of the people who use the properties that are on our platform are doing it for longer stays than ever before. So if the average stay before this crisis was less than 4 days, like 3.5 days, now it's closer to 9. And also we see a lot of recovery in the number of bookings that the platform gets each day. In fact, yesterday was our record since COVID hit, with reservations in the US reaching as much as 75% what they used to. So Americans are being the locomotive of recovery from lockdowns. And we already seeing a lot of reservations for Thanksgiving. And normally in short-term rental platforms, you only see reservations for up to 3 months ahead. Now we see reservations for the winter and summer as well. And yeah, so pretty much you navigate what you get, make lemonades out of lemons, and that's it.
That's actually good news. I mean, I didn't know you have recovered so early. Now,
not yet recovered, but good signs of recovery. Yeah.
75% is good by all means. So I'm glad to hear that.
It is the U.S., but Guesty is international brand, and we do see some countries who haven't yet recovered. Italy and Spain are good examples. But the rest of the world, especially the ones who already had earlier, are slowly going back to normal. Especially the countries that really like their freedom, and are very constitutional about it. Those are the ones that we see reservations climbing back even earlier than others.
I want to go back to the fact that you have founded a company with your 3 brothers. So we actually want to do a special meetup about that by actually hosting the brothers who founded UVI, if you know that automotive startup. And also, of course, we know about 3D, who sold their company, which was a sports tech company to Intel for over $170 million. It seems that, unlike the cliche that you don't do business within the family, it actually works pretty good.
Well, it really depends on your family, right? So
Yeah.
we always said that even if we argue with each other, we still need to report to the same mother. So even normally, if founders fight and argue, it's most likely would lead to breakups and sometimes to the death of the company. With Guesty, was never an option. We were so much committed to the company that we did argue. It's inevitable in a lot of cases. Creating a startup is very high intensity, high stress environment. And I definitely encourage people to open startups with people they feel comfortable and have this relationship that they can sustain themselves in the long run. A startup is never a sprint, it's a marathon. And if you run a marathon, you want to make sure that you run it in your comfy shoes. So don't set yourself up for failure, and make sure that your co-founder is someone that you feel comfortable in good times and in bad. I was lucky enough that my co-founder is my identical twin brother, and I definitely love him and feel a lot of bond. And we also, we think very much alike in many ways, and we do have different opinions than others. Yeah, so that's it.
I definitely agree with that. I'm running my own startup, and choosing the right team to run with is one of the most important things. Beside a great idea and to develop it in the right way, the team is one of the most important things. So that's a good tip that all the entrepreneurs in the audience can take. I have another question regarding to Guesty. What's next? You're expanding, you're working in 10 countries. What are the plans for the future after the COVID-19?
Yeah. So it did affect our immediate plans, right? So before COVID, we were on track to open in our global offices. We did open our 11th office earlier in the year. We were on track to expand towards more of enterprise type of sales, to our upper the funnel, kind of like sales funnels. Now, most of our focus is improving our platform, improving stability, making sure the companies that use Guesty are able to use it to lower their expenses, to lower their strains on their company, and also listen to their needs and expand our product to make sure that we are offering them everything that they need in order to not only survive but to grow.
Okay.
Yeah, but in the long run, Guesty is always focused on how do we grow the company year over year. No one is talking about growth this year. We are talking about how can we double down next year and make sure that we not only grow in our normal rate, but even kind of like fixing the rate that was kind of like problematic this year. As I mentioned earlier, we're lucky enough that we do have a significant long runway to sustain ourselves even through the end of 2022. So we feel very confident about our metrics.
Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between the markets that you're working in, because you're working in 10 different countries?
Yeah. So I mentioned the US, right? So US is one of the countries that we already seeing a very fast recovery and back to rhythm. With travel, you always have a rhythm. It's never a constant line. It's like check-ins are obviously on the weekends. Then you have like reservations up to 30 days in advance, or up to 90 days in advance. We started seeing that also in Australia and in Canada. Europe, slowly there, not there yet. So I think that most of the reservations we're seeing in Europe are for post-crisis. We're talking about spring, not spring, summer and winter later. New Year's reservation, New Year's week, and things like that. So the beauty of Guesty is we have we have visibility throughout the rest of the world.
Okay.
We are monitoring everything and trying to make adjustments in each one of our regions.
Great, thank you. Tal?
Yeah, well, from time to time, Amiad, you can just, read some of the questions that people are giving to you in the chat.
Yeah, I have. Luis Grillo asked about given Airbnb's handling of cancellations and refunds, how would we assess the risk of hosts moving away from Airbnb towards independent booking platforms? And would it impact our interface and strategy moving forward? So first of all, we are great partners with Airbnb, and we definitely appreciate their business. We have been in partnership with them for the past 5 years. We are a premier partner of theirs as well. I think that given the situation with unplanned pandemic that hit us, I think every company in the industry had to reinvent the playbook, and I think that they did quite well. With that being said, we have always had multiple channels that we're connected to. We're connected to Booking.com. We're connected to TripAdvisor. We're connected to Agoda, Expedia, and many more. We also offer a direct booking website to our customers, kind of like the Wix of short-term rentals. So we already have all their inventory, already have all their properties. With a click of a button, we design a booking website for them where they can get their own direct reservations. Part of the strategy of a lot of our customers is to diversify and get as much demand as possible from wherever, and we are helping them with that. So we are their software platform, just like Salesforce, we are adapting ourselves to our customer needs and keeping good relationship with all of our rest of our partners.
Amiad, I would like, in accordance to the questions that are going to be asked during the conversation.
You know what, Tal? Maybe because it's not super clear what we do. So if you think about it, property managers that manage, hundreds of Airbnbs or maybe dozens, sometimes even individuals who only manage 5 Airbnbs, condos, use Guesty to, put all their properties, connect to all these channels, synchronize pricing, automate their messaging to guests, automate guest check-ins, automate cleanings, maintenance, invoices, payment processing. It's pretty much the end-to-end platform for running short-term rental businesses.
You see, we think alike, Amiad. Because I wanted to move the conversation to PropTech right now. And you did an excellent job of doing this exposition. So I would like to, because I know there's a lot of PropTech people who joined the conversation. I know them in person. So I want to ask the obvious question: what do you think about the rise of this amazing vertical? Because I'm not even talking about only on platforms such as yourself, or Airbnb or whatever, but also construction tech and whatever.
Well, I think that in the long run, this industry is completely unaffected from the current virus. In the short term, there are some effects, but if you think about it, properties are, you know, unchanged spaces that needs to be rented, that needs to be money making for their owners. And one of the things we've seen changing in the last few months is people are moving the utility of their properties from short-term to mid-term to monthly stays to quarantine apartments to any type of different type of usage, including even first responders who are utilizing properties that are close to hospitals and things along these lines. So we see a lot of different flexible usage of properties. I think that any type of business that is created to help these type of businesses that run properties that need to make money on them for their owners. You think about it, owners put those properties for profit. They invested in those properties, so they need to see a return that is justifying it. In the long run, we definitely believe that there would be more properties that are being utilized on these platforms just because the demand for travel has always increased over time. Last year, there were more than 1.4 billion international travelers worldwide. This is almost 20% of the world population traveling internationally. And that doesn't include domestic travel, which has always been big in most of the countries. And by the way, in the United States, in many of those countries that I mentioned, the increase back to normal days, it's mostly all just domestic travel. So domestic travel within a ride, like 3-hour drive or something like that, for people leaving their urban areas, trying to celebrate a specific holiday, or trying to celebrate a specific occasion like anniversaries or birthdays. And we're seeing a lot of those domestic travel happening. And I think that will be the first, kind of like recovery point. And after that, we'll see more recovery of kind of like domestic travel within flight distance, because people feel more confident flying domestically still. And then international will open, like we saw in New Zealand and Australia. They open kind of like shared airspace where within their domain there's free travel, but not fully international yet. We also see Europe trying to open countries with the same risk factor back to travel. So we will see some travel going back there. I know we stand just in between property tech and travel tech. We run the properties for our property managers. Like we make sure that they have all the utilities and everything to run those property management companies. But all of the utilization is done through travel at the moment, or through monthly stays, which we also support. And that's one of the long-term ways for us to expand into longer and longer stays and a different type of usage of those properties.
And where do you see this vertical going, especially when we're talking about, I mean, Mr. Neumann tried to do the will live kind of thing, but unfortunately, I don't know where he is right now. I hope he's in a good place.
Well,
Drinking tequilas, yeah, on the beach. Yeah, I know you want to say that. So, but seriously, where do you see this all those new living models going to, especially when you are actually operating such living models?
yeah. Um, well, I believe that the co-living factor is here to stay. I think if you think about the new millennials or even the Z generation, they don't like owning stuff so much. They like actually experiencing stuff. It's the Instagram generation. People take, pictures and videos of everything they experience. And in that generation, people don't want to just own things. They want to be traveling, expending things. Therefore, co-living gives a really good solution of having a place to live where you also have place to work, where you also have place to work out in. And this is part of the flexible rental vision that I elaborated earlier on. One of the things we believe in is no one company can offer everything. And therefore, we decided to open ourselves as a marketplace and an ecosystem. So in the last year, we collaborated with 80 companies that are integrated completely to our APIs, which means that every one of our customers can toggle on their services really easily. That allows our customers to have different types of services being offered to them. Either it be things like pricing analytics, like marketplace data, or payment processors, dynamic pricing tools, home automation, even alerts. They have this hardware that they put inside their apartment that have noise monitoring. So if a guest actually, overreach a specific decibel amount, you get alerts on the system, which is great because then you can actually utilize their security deposit. You can immediately reach out through the platform to the guest. um, I definitely believe in automation taking a lot more space in this ecosystem. I think that a lot of the manual work would need to be replaced with a lot more automation just because efficiency is critical in a times of economy struggle. And we'll see a lot more of these automation taking place. Guesty started as an automation play that we built for ourselves to manage our properties, and then it pivoted to be a automation software for property managers, and was the key reason for our success.
Thank you, Amiad, for all the information and answering the questions. I want to go back a little bit for the beginning. We have a lot of young entrepreneurs in our which participant in this meetup. And can you tell us the best tip that you've got during the way, something that inspired you, that you can share with us?
Well, first of all, I started young too. We created Guesty when I was 25. I'm 32 now, so Guesty is old. It's funny. We actually give pins to our employees after each year, kind of like Alcoholic Anonymous. They where you get symbols. This is my sixth one. You see here, camera. So I started young. I think that the important tip depends on the stage of the company each one of you is on. If you're just starting, I think resilience is really important. You're gonna get a lot of no's, and it's important to hear for feedback, but feedback only from customers. Anyone else is gonna give you a ton of negative opinion, or sometimes good opinion, but they aren't be buying from you, and therefore their opinion matters only as a way to kind of like appreciate you and show you support, which is good from your friends. But it's important to to stay focused. Only get knows changing your view if it comes from customers. Investors, for example, would tell you tons of no's. Sometimes they wouldn't tell you no at all. They would just stretch you over time and and give stupid reasoning why they can't invest now. And also remember, we at Guesty got 40 no's for every yes we got from investors.
Can you
Even
tell us a little bit. I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about the investors? How did you approach them? How was the relationship with the investors that you try to raise money from?
So,
How to do it in the right way?
so when we were small, we reached out to anyone. We just pretty much bluntly asked for intros, reached out to anyone. It was difficult. Uh, it was a lot of no responses, some meetings, uh, some waste of time. Um, I think that, as I mentioned, we got 40 no's for every yes we got, and that means for the first 1.6 million we got, it was 14 investors. So think about how many no's we got. Um, we were almost just on the bridge of that's it, closing our round. That's it, no more. It's too much, where we got another yes, and that gave us power to continue moving forward. I think the best way to approach investors is through a company they've invested in, because those
Okay.
are people they trust. So reach out to investors from a company they invested in, especially if you know that company. Most people would not be willing to give intros to someone just reaching out of the blue, like, hey, on LinkedIn, hey, I know TLV Partners invested in you. Can you make an intro? Our schedule is completely full. Even if we intro you guys, the investor will ask, do we know them? Can we vouch for them? And then we say, no, I just reached out on LinkedIn, and that will be a weak intro. The best intro is if you ask for advice from another entrepreneur, he gives you advice, he believes in you, and then he intro you. Throughout the last 6 years, I was trying to pay it forward, so to speak, and did many 1 hour sessions with entrepreneurs at different stages. And the ones who I was really impressed by, I actually introed to my investors, and that led to meetings that were really warm, because when I said, hey, this guy is impressive, our investors are keen to at least meet them and see if it makes sense or not.
And
So
how is it important to have a mentor during the way, during your path? Someone that will guide you and lead you maybe to the right
if
way.
he's if he's a good if it's a good mentor, yes.
How do you
It's
pick
very
it?
it's very hard to find good mentor. I think the best mentors are people who already did it successfully in your ecosystem, right? So if you do construction tech, find a construction tech entrepreneur who already sold his company 2 years ago, or already worked on the same ecosystem, maybe pivoted to a different thing. Offer them advisory board placement, offer them something to keep them interested, uh, and perhaps they can be a good mentor. Most of the times they don't have enough time. So you need to be very, very focused with their time. That's one of the things we learned at YC as well. You never get like
Okay.
an hour time of a mentor. You get like 20 minutes. So you need to come very, very focused with, hey, these are the pain points I'm dealing with right now. What do you think? And they will ask questions, and then we'll try to guide you for clarity uh, in your direction, so to speak.
Thank you. And one of the most important things for me is the founded team. You mentioned that you established the company with your twin brother, with Kobe. How did you choose the rest of the team members in the beginning, not when you became a 300 and more
Yeah.
employees, but the founded team?
Uh, that was very difficult. Actually, we made tons of mistakes, right? We were first-time founders. We mostly hired people that we really liked hanging around next to. Think about it. In startups, you are spending 10 hours a day, 11, 12 hours a day with each and every one of those people. So you should only choose people that are really awesome. And we did. So we had amazing culture. To this day, we have amazing culture, that people that are staying friends with each other even after they leave Guesty. Uh, the, the, the truth is that we also hired a lot of inexperienced people because we weren't able to pay a lot. And that played out to be, you know, wasting us sometimes a lot of years of learning and training these people or bringing them up to speed. In many places, that was great, right? But in some places, it's part of the price you pay, right? So you either pay more for experienced person, or you pay less, but then pay with your time to get them to the high level of experience that you want.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Tal, would you like to add something?
Absolutely. So, Amiad, before we sum up, and then there's always the last question for you to give some, some overview of where you see this world going to the world of entrepreneurship. But before that, I have to ask you a question. What was putting the COVID-19 thing aside for a second, what was the toughest point that you can remember and you can share during the time of Guesty?
Wow, many tough points along the way. I think one of the most stressful times were when we were doing good, but we had our back to the wall with money. Money was running out. We had only like 2 months left on runway, and we knew that if we weren't be closing funding right now, we would have to let the company know that they need to start searching for a job. We were once closed and close enough to reach that endpoint or back to the wall that we already closed like in the last due diligence stages, but had like, if this fall through, we're done. And luckily it didn't fall through. We had tremendous support from our investors that they really believed in us. We were doing good, but it's really important to manage your runway really well, and don't get yourself to those situations that you have only 1 month or even 6 months. I think a good cash management is to always leave you with enough of a buffer of at least 6 months of runway, and have money in the bank before that 6 months period, so you have enough of leverage to negotiate. That month that I was talking about was before our A round, and that was I was in my honeymoon. I was doing phone calls all day long with investors just to get this deal closed. So very stressful times, but in some ways, every new scenario that you never planned for is another stressful environment, because sometimes you need to let go people that you really care for. I think we had done really well with this specific crisis, and planned accordingly. We ran our company really lean, so we didn't have to make too much of a cuts before this crisis. So super lucky.
Okay, and so now we will conclude this meetup with the question that I wanted to ask to sum it up. Where do you see the world of startups really going to? I mean, do you see any new things that we are about to experience as entrepreneurs?
Like new startups?
If like, for instance, I decide to do a travel tech startup or a PropTech startup tomorrow, is it different than what you used to do when you founded yours?
I think it is in many ways, and it's not in others. Well, I'm super interested right now about how population around the world is driving really fast, and construction isn't picking up quickly enough, which brings to question the small homes like small homes initiative, where you have prefabricated homes where you can build them within a few weeks instead of few years. I've been looking a lot about this ecosystem. It's far from where Guesty is, but it's super interesting. I think that in other areas, it speaks to the same problem, right? Like population growth around the world. How do you feed so many people? How do you take care of clean water? I don't know if you know, but last year, South Africa, one of the places we have customers in, suffered from overpopulation, which means the people were only rational with a gallon of water per week or things like that. So um, a lot of, if you zoom out a little bit and look at the entire world and seeing where will it be in 5 years, and start thinking, oh, they will need water, they will need food, they will need homes, you're starting seeing a lot of things that aren't ready to deal with such a mass. I think also a lot about how do we recover quickly from crisis modes are going to be picking up faster than ever before, and also saving cost. One of the companies that I gave guidance to earlier and didn't grow very fast until now was a company that was saving costs on servers, and all of a sudden this crisis caused it to skyrocket because a lot of the companies that it always was trying to sell to are now looking to save costs on servers. Yeah.
Okay, so we have time for one question. So if anybody wants to type it in the chat, by all means.
Sorry, I speak really quickly, so I got.
Don't worry about that.
You're good.
It was super interesting. Shachar, do you have a question, eh?
Yes, I have one question. And thank you very much for your time. It was really inspiring. Actually, in Startup Grind, we have a good relationship with all the accelerators, and we are trying to help them. My question is, how involved you are now as part of the community, the successful founder who succeeded, to raise money? Are you still investing in the community of helping, the YC groups and the other young or first timers?
Yeah.
It will. I think that one of the reason in Startup Grind we are hosting successful founders and not, lawyers or accountants that will give us some presentation how to build companies. It's because we want to save this relationship open for a long term. And today, with thousands of entrepreneurs, we want to bring also an Israeli guys that can really inspire others, and not only in Israel. So if you're involved in YC now, we want to know if you're still active, if you have time to support.
Yeah, so right now, specifically with this crisis, I didn't had so much time, but before it, I tried to help as much companies that reached out to me personally, at least with 30 minutes of advice and or a meeting to hear where they were at, what they were dealing with. Before YC interviewed in Israel, I don't know if you know, but they did interviews in Israel last year. They actually did it from the Guesty office. And there are a lot of companies who reach out to me in preparation for their interview. My brother actually took on a specific role in YC to screen applications. So he became super good in understanding which ones are getting good thumbs up and which ones aren't. So feel free to reach out to him, for feedback.
Not to you, obviously.
He's much better than I. He's much better than I in application. I'm good with running a business, so if you need advice on running the business, feel free. I probably will have more time once travel picks up again. Right now, I'm trying to spend my time more with the team and trying to recover most of the assets that we had any effect on. But feel free to reach out. If I have time, I will try to help as much as possible. I do definitely encourage you guys to apply to any accelerator if you think it's valuable to you. I think YC is one of the valuable ones because it doesn't really give you just advice. It specifically just connects you with really talented people that you can always reach out for help. YC also have an internal forum where people normally reach out and ask questions in. As I mentioned, right now I spent less time on it, but before it, I used to read a lot of the questions there and try to help others. And that's it. So good luck to all of you guys. And thank you again, Noya and Tal and Shahar, for having me in this. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, Amiad, so much. It was very inspiring. Thank you.
And,
thank you again.
Before we finish everything, and Amiad, you can log out. You can log out and run to your next virtual meeting. But
okay.
I'm just going to tell you that from next month, hopefully, we're going to be live offline, and we're going to go back to hosting all of our panels or meetups offline. Sorry. And next month is SG Women, which is a month that we give the floor to women entrepreneurs, and we have a great panel of talented entrepreneurs in the venture. So feel free to check it out and register and come and be with us. I would like to tell you all thank you very much, and stay safe out there in this COVID-19 situation. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye-bye.